Hi, I'm Kris.
And I'm Lorri.
And this is Midlife Group Chat, the podcast where we talk about what we're loving, learning, and letting go.
Think of this as the kind of conversation you have with a friend about books, life, friendships, travel, TV, and anything else we can think of.
Not as experts, but as women really living it.
So grab a coffee or go for a walk and hang with us for a Midlife Group Chat.
All right. Hi, friends. Welcome to Midlife Group Chat. This is a podcast where we just hang out with friends and chat about random topics. We'll laugh, we'll cry, we'll debate, we'll ramble a lot, and we'll have a great time.
Each episode is going to have a variety of topics that are on our minds. Family stuff, friends stuff, shows, books, food. We love food. Traveling. We travel a lot, and we're going to let you know about that and how you can maybe join us and so much more. We'll also invite others to join us now and then so you aren't stuck just listening to Kris and I on our crazy tangents. We'll try to mix it up now and then. So let's get to it. Here's a very brief bio just to give you some background on us. So I'm Lorri. I grew up in California, but I joined the Air Force and left California and have lived several places, but I'm currently in Georgia. I spent my early career, like I mentioned, in the Air Force in the public sector, and now I've transitioned into the private sector, and I am one of those very fortunate remote workers doing cybersecurity. I have two grown daughters. One has launched, and one is still in the nest. I'm divorced and not sure if I am looking for a man. I don't know if anyone else out there is in that situation, but that's a whole other episode we'll talk about later. Kris and I have known each other since we were 12. We love to talk, and we obviously have stayed best friends through all these years through some shared interests, and obviously we love each other. So, and here is Kris.
Yes. So I'm Kris, California born and raised, still living here. A funny story reminded me of how California I am this morning. So if we have time, I'll share that later. Otherwise, I'll save it for another time. But anyways, so techie companies hire me to run marketing and events for them. But in my spare time, which is the other 16 hours a day, really, I like to, I'm really into books. So I like to write these cheesy romance novels and help other authors write and publish their books. I have two grown boys, and they're both, doing well in the world. And my husband is around here somewhere. We've been married for almost 3 decades, so forever. So I've got lots going on, but I'm really so excited for this podcast and can't wait to get it going. So let's get started. Lorri, why are we finally doing this? We've talked about this for a couple of years now. We've had ideas in the past, but what do you think has made us finally pull the trigger and actually do this?
So I think much like our title, we're sort of at this midlife point in our lives, and we have a lot of experiences. We have a pretty eclectic friend group, and we realize that we have a lot to say about a lot of things, and there's not a lot of things out there not a lot of places where you can go to find other people in this sort of same stage in their life. So I think both of us love to talk. So it made a lot of sense right now. It's actually, I think, going to be a great year for us to be doing this. Both of us are, and we'll get into some of that, but both of us are at a kind of a point where we can, dedicate the time that's necessary to, make these frequently and share and get interest and get some some of our content out there, some of our stories out there.
Yeah, you mentioned this midlife stage that we're at, and it's true. I'm very much in denial about it, but it is true that I hit a milestone birthday this year, or last year, I guess, 2025. And, I still don't like to say that word, FIFTY, out loud. But I'm like, starting to feel some of the excitement I think that you and some of our other friends have felt about this next stage and what happens next. And, all the things that we have available to us now, and the opportunities that are coming our way that we can say yes to, and then the things that we're saying no to. I mean, it's a whole new world out there. And so I'm I'm really starting to embrace this, like being in this midlife stage is actually pretty cool. And I think we're going to have some fun with it.
Absolutely. I know that you don't love the FIFTY word. But I have like sort of the same feeling. I think sometimes like, how did we get here? I look at old pictures of us and I'm like, how am I not that 25-year-old? Like I feel like that 25-year-old, but I am clearly also an FIFTYer as well. But I do know, and again, life is so interesting how things happen and then you just realize like you only get one, wild and crazy life and you really need to embrace those things that bring you joy and take those adventures and share it with the people that are as excited about the things that you are excited about. And I think that that's another reason like we've had such amazing adventures together and this is just like another adventure that we get to do together. So
Yes. Yes. Yeah, this year we're going to have a lot of things to talk about. I mean, we were brainstorming on what this show is going to look like, and we're still figuring it out. So it's going to probably evolve as this is episode 1. I'm sure episode 3 and 5 are going to look very different, but we'll figure it out. But I mean, there's just stuff about the kids, and they're grown, and eventually there's going to be the grandkids and pets and books and TV. And I watch a lot of TV and karaoke and like all the things that we love and not always have an opportunity to talk about. Not everybody appreciates karaoke the way I know you do. So
yes,
I'm very, I got a new karaoke machine for Christmas. So it's on my
yes.
mind.
We will definitely be spotlighting that in one of the episodes for sure.
Exactly. Yes. Hopefully, for all of you listening, you will not have to have a demonstration of it. But who knows? After a few cocktails, anything's possible. So, okay. So let's see. Before we get too deep into it, tell me how your Christmas and New Year's went, Lorri. What'd you do?
So, as you know, I love Christmas. Christmas is my jam. And unfortunately, this year, Christmas was dulled at my house thanks to a leak that happened in September. And I think many listeners can relate to this, to the repair service just taking a long time, making lots of errors. It was almost like, really, you did that happened. And so I actually sadly, and as we get into this, I think we'll eventually like share some pictures and things like that. You will see what Christmas 2025 looked like at my house as opposed to other years where it looked like it was the North Pole. So Christmas was fine. I always have gratitude. My younger daughter is still living with me, as I mentioned. We spent it together. It was quiet. We shared it with a couple friends that were local. We don't have family here in Georgia. So I definitely took a pause and tried to be very, very grateful for health, for loved ones, for my life, and where I'm at. And so that was kind of my Christmas. And then because Christmas was so quiet, and actually this leak prevented me from visiting my cousin up in Virginia, I actually went and visited my cousin and her family. So she has a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And it was very interesting to be back in that life, which again, like I said, you blink and you're FIFTY. But I mean, it wasn't ago that I feel like my kids were that little and I kind of forgot how hard it is. And actually something we definitely should talk about is I have girls and you have boys. She has 2 boys, and that was a different world.
Very different.
Boys, from the
Yes.
second they get up, are on. And even
Yes.
the 1-year-old can walk and almost talk, and he is chasing his 3-year-old brother. So, again, super grateful that I could drive to see family and have some time with them. But yeah, we put that in our list of things to talk about.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. I have lots of lots of
Yes.
thoughts on that. But yeah,
Yes.
these
So, yeah,
boys
and we'll
are
talk about
wild.
teenage girls and teenage boys and young adult girls. So, what about you? I know you had a really emotional week. How was your Christmas? How was your New Year's? And you can talk about as much or as little as you want with that, which I think listeners can relate to this. So, go ahead.
Yeah. So Christmas was very nice. I hosted dinner. We had some family, some local family over, so that was really nice. Trevor did most of the cooking, so that was great. It was delicious. And then between Christmas and New Year's, our dog, who was like 17, she's, old for a silver lab, which is a like a chocolate but with recessive genes, so it looks more like a Weimaraner kind of coloring. But because it's a recessive dog with lots of recessive genes, she had lots of like skin problems and other issues. So, anyways, she got to the point where we had to put her down, and it was so sad, and just like 2 days of just crying and just being so upset. And we can talk about that kind of stuff on another episode, but it's been a crazy kind of week. But um, the good news, the bright side of that is now we can start looking at puppies. you know, there's room for one more
Yeah.
new puppy in the house, and I'm still trying to talk my way into two kittens as well. But Trevor's not as excited about that, so I've got to do some work on that a little bit longer. But that's the plan: one puppy and two more kittens. So we'll have a full house very soon.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, I'm so sorry about Luna that I lost my dog last year, and that is definitely something that is a way later episode that is tragic, and we'll talk about it later. But so we're recording at the end of 2025. Do you have any exciting plans for 2026?
I do have, I think, lots of things that I want to get done, but one of the most immediate things that I'm going to be doing over the next month, I hope, is to get a mammogram. Not particularly exciting, but I do have to get them yearly because my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer when she was 55. So, it's kind of right in this age. And I in November, kind of late November, right as I was leaving for vacation for 2 weeks in Europe, I got laid off from my job. And they only extended my benefits, my medical benefits, to the end of the month. But I was out of the country for the whole month. Like literally, I was driving to the airport. So I didn't get to do any of these like last minute visits before that coverage ended. And then the whole month of December, I was kind of stalling. It was $3,600 for 1 month of coverage. So I just kind of waited. And now that month is over, and I will be starting a new job in January. So I will have new coverage. And as soon as I do, that's the first thing I'm going to do is go get that damn mammogram. And just to, get it over with and make sure we're all good. But man, it's so crazy the way, well, just cost of medical insurance in general. But, some of these things, like they're so important to do on an annual basis. And, got the colonoscopy every few years and all the like standard stuff. I got a shingles shot a couple months ago, because
No,
that's also the next thing.
my doctor did not tell me to get that shingle shot, but everybody else who turned 50 all has it. I guess you have to ask for it. I don't know. I guess that's something I need because that's another thing we should talk about. I know four women who have had shingles in their 30s and 40s.
Wow.
So I'm like, well, clearly I should be getting it. So that's interesting. I'm going to put that on my
Yeah, definitely go get it. I actually just went to like one of the pharmacies and they did it. They
ask
did
for it.
all of my
Okay. Yeah.
vaccines. And then
Okay.
for shingles, you have to do a titer in like 2 to 6 months or something. So I need to go back also, as soon as everything's back up and running, and get that second shot. I will say for that one, because I did COVID, flu, and shingles all at the same time. I was pretty sick for the next day. Like I felt pretty yucky for 24 hours, but I mean, better than the alternative of being really sick.
Yes.
And so I'm hoping with the next one, it won't make me feel so bad, but we'll see. I mean, who knows? So
I
Yeah.
did flu and COVID together this year randomly because my doctor said, and I felt like I felt terrible too. I think
Yeah.
those are all like a one shot a day kind of thing. Otherwise, or I guess unless you want
Or
to get,
yeah, just
I mean, just recover
exactly.
crappy for a couple days instead of three times crappy. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the sort of the way I felt. Like I didn't have anything going on that weekend. I did it on a Friday. I knew I was just going to be kind of like yucky and in bed all day Saturday, and I was, and it was fine. You know, like it was over with for a while, so that's good. What about you? Anything exciting planned for the new year?
So I've been planning for years now to move away from Georgia. As I mentioned, um, I moved down here for a public sector assignment. It was supposed to be 3 years. I ended up, COVID started. I ended up leaving the public sector because my dad, as you know, got cancer a second time. And I needed to be, they had retired from California down to Florida, and I needed to go down there and support my mom through this. And my work was not very great about that. And so it kind of was a point where I was like feeling like I had 25 years with the public sector, and so I get retirement delayed, and I was thinking I would just put some feelers out and see what I could find. So I ended up leaving the public sector. So obviously I never made it back to Maryland, which is where I was before here. And I don't feel like Georgia is my home, not for any particular reason. It's just I don't have family here. It's a very transient area. And so I have a twin sister. For the listeners, I know you know her, um, Lisa. And we have not lived by each other since we were in, I was in, I went to language school in Monterey, California, and she was at UC Santa Cruz. So that was like the last time we were even like close to each other. And that was
College,
a
yeah.
really long time ago. So I would love to go back to California, but it's very expensive. So I would love to come back to the Bay Area. I do love it there. It does feel like home, but it's an enormously expensive cost of living. So maybe someday when I hit the lotto, you know, I can move back there. But in the meantime, I would love to move to the Pacific Northwest. So, like I mentioned, I have an older daughter. She's 27. She actually lives in Beaverton. So I'm thinking Pacific Northwest. However, I don't love the city that my sister lives in. And just not to cause conflict, I won't name that city, but it's just a quiet little city in Oregon. And I don't know that I would love to live there. The other thing that I'm struggling with, and I know you and I have had so many conversations about this move. I would love to move. I don't have a problem with change. I was in the military, but I refinanced my house during COVID for a great interest rate. And as all the listeners are aware, that is not the case anymore. And so and then the cost of living here in Georgia, I don't live in Atlanta. I live outside, quite a bit away in like a much, much cheaper area. And so trying to look for houses that are comparable to what I'm currently living in, like the price tag is so different. So that with the interest rate, and then I do have a elderly dog who I worry about, you know, transporting all the way across the country. Um, it's hard, but I know my heart is not here. I know I can't stay in Georgia. The predominance of my work for my job, even though I'm a remote worker, is in Virginia, DC area. So I do have to go there a lot. It again, I am a fully remote worker, so I can go anywhere I want. But considering like the travel, that's something that's playing hard, like weighing hard on my mind. But I know I need to leave. I need to make a plan. And then this will probably resonate. As I was packing up for this leak that I had, I just realized I am drowning in stuff. So I am not moving all this stuff wherever I go. So I need to really focus on downsizing my junk, maybe Marie Kondoing some things. Does it spark joy? I need to get things down, and not have so much sentimentality about stuff. The newer generations don't have any sentimentality. I'm holding all this stuff thinking one day you're going to want it, and they're like, we don't want it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Don't hold it.
right. And then, but then I think about my mom who continues to tell me, oh, you're going to get this and you're going to get that when I'm gone. And I'm like, but I don't want that. So, one topic
Exactly.
we need to
Yes.
talk about, which again probably resonates with our listeners, is in this stage in your life where your parents or somebody is trying to hold stuff for you and you don't want it, and you're trying to hold stuff for your kids, and the newer generations are like, not, they're minimalist, they don't want to hold anything. So how do we break that
Yes.
cycle and get rid of stuff?
We
So
do need to break the
that's it.
cycle.
Number one, downsizing my junk. Number two, moving somewhere that feels closer to home. Because Georgia isn't my home. California,
Yeah.
my whole family has moved away. Maryland, I lived there a long time, but that doesn't feel like home. So I think it's going to be about finding home where
Yeah.
somebody lives that feels like home. I don't know. It's going to be a journey.
And
So
part of that, I think, for you is going to be like, do you need to have the same kind of house that you have now
I don't.
in your new
That's a
home?
great point.
Yeah. Like, do you
Yes.
need a big, many bedrooms, many bathrooms, two-story, like, all
I
that?
don't. I don't. And that's the thing. Like, how do you decide? Especially, I live so far from Oregon. I have to like spend some time. And I keep saying every time I go visit, I'm gonna spend some time and try to figure out what feels good there. And I don't do it. So that's on the list of
Okay.
the
You and I need to plan a special house
yes,
hunting trip just to
just
go look
purely
at
house
places
hunting.
only.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, definitely. Definitely.
All right. Okay, good. Well, I'm going to keep bugging you about that because I do want you to move closer, drivable, or at least a 1 hour flight versus a 5 hour flight,
Yes.
and then a second flight. So,
Yes.
yes,
Yes. Direct.
direct. You need to be somewhere direct. Yeah. Okay. So, new topic. Lori and I just spent a couple weeks in Germany with family and friends, and we did this big tour. And one of the topics that came up often is Hashimoto's disease, because one of the younger women that was traveling with us was recently diagnosed, and so she's having to make a lot of changes in her life, and she has a lot of questions. And Lori has it and has had it for a while or has known about it. So, Lori, I was hoping you could just kind of talk a little bit about what it is, what the symptoms are, what does it mean for people? Because I think a lot of women our age probably have it and don't know it, or might soon be diagnosed with it, and it sounds pretty scary.
Yes, yes. So it is such a weird autoimmune disease, and they are still studying it. Unfortunately, it's also not a lucrative disease. It's not life-threatening in most cases. And so it's very hard to get diagnosed, like you're spot on. So just a tiny bit of weird background on how I got diagnosed and something very interesting about it. So, like I mentioned, I'm an identical twin. She does not have it, which again, autoimmune isn't always, it has genetic components, but it isn't always genetic. But my mom has it. So I came back from a deployment and I felt terrible. And I had never been diagnosed with any thyroid stuff. So my mom didn't know that what she had was Hashimoto's. So we're just gonna say, so sometimes it's confusing. It can be a very confusing thing, even when you are given the diagnosis. But she did not know that her thyroid issue was an autoimmune disease. It was an autoimmune issue. So I came back and I was feeling terrible. I felt like horrible. I'm like, I must have gotten something there. I must have drank some water or something, got a parasite, something. So where I was there was no real worry of that. And so it just didn't make sense why I was feeling so bad. And I thought it was jet lag. I went to all these doctors, all these places trying to get answers, but my thyroid, um, like labs were all normal, but they weren't normal for me. But there was no pre existing labs to say that they were off for me. And it continues to be hard to find endocrinologists or specialists that actually do understand the right labs. So, ironically enough, my mom was still seeing the doctor we saw like our whole lives, and my mom was like, "Just send your labs to her. She'll be happy to look at them." So, she sent my labs, and the doctor called me and she's like, "You have Hashimoto's just like your mom." I was like, "Oh, okay. Well,
Good to know.
that's good to know. Mom, did you realize you had this?" And again, nothing but love for my mom, but it is a very confusing thing. So at that point, I did get an endocrinologist who then got my labs. I was put on, I think I started with Synthroid. It made me sick. They put me on levothyroxine. We don't need to get into all that because Kris and I are not medical people, but this is just my experience. So one thing I'll say is if you have a lot of stress or very stressful situation that happens, you there has to be other symptoms, but like if you're feeling like extreme tiredness, if you feel like even if you sleep hours, 11 hours, you're still waking up tired, if you have brain fog, weight gain, weight loss can be an indication of that. Um, Feeling cold like all the time, it's hard to regulate your temperature. Something very interesting, if you take your temperature and it's under 98.6, like mine is always 97.5. That is actually an indicator of Hashimoto's specifically.
Wow.
Oh, and also if you are, even if your labs are normal and you think that you might have an issue with potentially an autoimmune thyroid problem, they can test something called your TPO, your thyroid antibody to your thyroid. And so most people should have like basically none. Mine was like 1600. The girl that we were talking to on this trip, hers was like 1100. That is definitely Hashimoto's. And you should be treating it, even if you're, well, the jury's still out, but you should be addressing these symptoms if you have a large amount of TPO. Um, so there's definitely some lifestyle changes that they recommend. I've actually done several Hashimoto specific diets to elimination diets to see what my triggers actually are. Generally, gluten is a trigger. They've studied it and said that um, when you have Hashimoto's and you eat gluten, it's not that you are allergic to it or things like that, but it actually throws an autoimmune response, and they're trying to figure out why. And so that's why they say not to avoid gluten. Same thing with soy. They recommend avoiding soy. Same thing, it throws an autoimmune response. It is so hard though, and I will tell you one thing that I have just had to do in my life is when I decide I want to feel good and feel healthy, then I have to be serious about this stuff and keep track of it. Um, there are definitely some FODMAP foods those are that you have to avoid. But again, there are things that are going to make you feel bad, and then there's going to be things that make you feel just a little bad. And so for me, like to be totally honest, I do eat the stuff I want to eat, and I accept the repercussions of that. I will say if you don't, if you do not, if you go undiagnosed, your thyroid is the brain of your endocrine system, and a lot of things can happen. So I actually did lose my gallbladder. I had some gallbladder issues, and now there's a bunch of studies that show undiagnosed, unmanaged issues with Hashimoto's can cause issues with your gallbladder. Sometimes it can cause problems with your appendix. It can cause
Oh.
reproductive issues. So it's definitely something you, obviously, if you're not feeling horrible, you're like, okay, I'll address it later, I'll address it later. But you know your body. And as you go through life, if you are feeling not like yourself for days, months, years, I don't recommend going years. You really do need to be an advocate for yourself and say, like, test me for these things. Find somebody who specializes in autoimmune diseases. It doesn't have to be Hashimoto's. It can be like um they understand autoimmune. I actually had a functional medicine doctor that was fantastic. That was one of the first elimination diets that I did. They were so helpful. There are things that you can take. So another thing, unfortunately, and not to be Debbie Downer, but when you have one autoimmune, you have a likelihood of getting other autoimmune issues. Just that it's just what happens. So you do have to be hyper vigilant in just taking care of yourself. So one thing, like I have a lot of IBS issues, unfortunately, but I definitely have behaviors of Crohn's disease. I have a terrible stomach, and I know that that's contribute my Hashimoto's has contributed to that. The other thing that, unfortunately, so when your thyroid isn't functioning properly, your whole endocrine system gets off, and then you don't have good absorption of some critical vitamins. So like
Nutrients.
my vitamin D is always low, my iron is always low, my B's are always low. So you do have to really, because you get something called leaky gut and you just can't absorb it. So it's really important. And I can promise, if you eat the right way and you really focus on it and make sure that you are getting your labs tested and that you are focusing on, getting those levels at least to stasis, you will feel so much better. But you have to understand that you have it. So the other thing that has happened with me, and this doesn't happen with everybody, you can go your whole life with Hashimoto's and keep your thyroid and never lose it. The problem is it can lead to thyroid cancer. So I have, I think, 3 nodules, and they had to biopsy it to make sure there wasn't cancerous. It wasn't cancerous, and mine isn't, thankfully. That could change. So I'm monitored all the time. I have to have ultrasound of it, of the nodules, and make sure they're not growing excessively. So again, it's to be positive. It is not the end of the world, but it's definitely something that you have to be aware of. And if you manage it properly, you can completely feel fine, and you can live a regular life. But I was talking to the girl, and in the beginning, you really do want to be very strict, because once you kind of get diagnosed with it, you're like, well, what does this mean for me? Like, how do I live this life? With saying I can't have gluten, I can't have soy. Every time you go to a restaurant, you have to ask, like, how is this prepared? Luckily, I was diagnosed in 2015. Things are so much better and easier now, especially like if you live in a bigger city. Like almost every grocery store offers this stuff now. You can purchase things online. And we kind of talked about like what are safe types of food. So like Middle Eastern food is very Hashimoto friendly. Japanese food minus the soy, which is hard because soy sauce is delicious, but there is tamarind, and you can have amino acids. Those can substitute for soy. So there's definitely options, and it's really about learning, like, because nobody wants to be a burden. I don't want to be the person that goes in and says, like, tell me every ingredient in this thing, and nobody wants to be that person. But in the beginning, as you're sort of navigating that, you kind of have to. And then once you've sort of done that journey of discovery, the frustrating one where you're like, oh gosh, I don't even want to go out to eat because I don't want to be that person. But then you learn, and then you learn what you can eat, and the restaurants that have it. And again, like I said, it's shocking. Like California is fantastic with it. The Maryland, Virginia, DC area, so easy to find. And even in my little rinky-dink town, even at our Publix, you can find lots of gluten-free options. I think that things have changed a lot for that, so it's much, much easier. But it's definitely a life-changing sort of diagnosis. But you will see, and if you keep track of this stuff and you sort of log your foods and see, you can tell what makes you feel good and what makes you feel not good. And over time, like, you'll be able to learn what that means for you, and what you're willing to accept and not accept. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure there'll be lots of listeners, hopefully, that, have a similar experience and can share some stuff. So I'm sure we'll talk about it a lot too, because again, it's super interesting to me that my mom has it, I have it, my twin sister doesn't have it. What is, like,
Yeah, how did that all
that?
happen?
Like, why is that? And what's the nuances that, or what's the different lines of life that we took that made it so different for all of us? So that's it.
Yeah.
That's my Hashimoto
Very
story.
fascinating. Yes, it's amazing how our bodies work, and that, certain foods and certain, things interact in such a way that really affect our lives. So, it, like you said, it's like if you take care of it, no problem. In many cases, you are, good, but not taking care of it can have so many repercussions. So hopefully, there's anybody that's having some symptoms, please don't be afraid to talk to your doctor. Find somebody who is familiar with it and really get tested. Okay, so we've already talked a lot about stuff in this first episode. So before we move on, I want to get to some of the fun stuff here. So one of our segments is going to be what are we loving lately? So Lorri, what are you loving these days?
Okay, so I finally can read books again. I haven't had a chance to really read a lot of books, and now I do have time. So my guilty pleasure is I'm currently on the second book of Sarah Maas's Court series. So I'm on A Court of Mist and Fury. And I just love these books. It is definitely a guilty pleasure of mine. So what about you? What are you reading?
So I'm still I do both, fun reading and still some of that boring stuff. And so right now, in the car, I do a lot of audiobooks and I'm listening to I just started this yesterday, so I'm literally only on chapter one, but it's How to Make Money in Any Market by Jim Cramer. He's the guy who does that Mad Money show and he screams a lot and we watch it kind of in the background every business day. But he's got this so like I said, I just started, so I don't know the details of it yet, but he it sounds like he's got some sort of an investment challenge that he's putting out to the readers of this book. And it's like he wants people to invest, I don't know, $50 a month or $100 a month for a year or something. And then I don't I don't exactly know how it's all going to play out, but I think you and I should do this. We should
Ah, we
put
should.
in new money. So if you're already doing automatic investing, that's fine. New money, a new $50 or $100 a month that we'll put into our brokerage account and we'll invest it in some,
Yeah.
some solid stock and we'll just kind of see how it goes over the next year. And then I want to kind of put it out there for our listeners if they want to do it with us and we can,
Yeah, for
maybe
sure.
get like a chat going or something like that. But that would be kind of fun. And for those that aren't, if you can afford to put a little bit of money aside into the stock market, it's risky, but it's so important and you can, it can grow so exponentially that, it's worth putting aside some if you can. If you can't, like if you truly can't, you don't want to not buy food or something like that because you really could lose it all. But I would like to encourage anybody who's been afraid to do this to start because Lorri, you actually inspired one of my friends. It was what, 2 years ago. We were in Savannah at I was at a work show. You had dinner with some of my colleagues from the event, and you started talking with Deb and told her
Yes.
about
Robin
Robinhood,
Hood.
and
Yes.
she was so excited and
Yes.
she like opened an account right there at the table and she
Did.
started putting in money and she's I see her talk to her now and then and she's always like and just make sure you tell Lorri thank you because I've been investing and my stocks have gone up. And
Yeah.
so, this is like, we need to be doing these things for each other. Like, remind people to like take those risks sometimes. Not a ton of money, but start somewhere. And if you can afford more, great, do it. I mean, we're not getting any younger, so we need to be doing this stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, so as I get a little bit more information on this challenge, I'll bring it
Yes.
back and we'll get it going. And maybe we can even do like a scholarship for someone who isn't
Yeah.
prepared to start investing on their own yet. But yeah, I'm really excited about
Yeah,
that.
I
So
love
we'll see
it.
how
I
that
love
goes.
it. Yeah, I'm gonna read it along with you. I'll open it on my
Good.
Audible book. Yeah, or my
Yes,
Audible
get it.
account.
All right. So tell me, what are you watching these days?
So I am watching Stranger Things. I love that show so much. It's so nostalgic. I know this is so cliche, everybody's watching it, but it just like the nuances that they put in this show from the 80s and 90s is just so cool. Like the details. I actually
I
follow
know.
the hairdresser. She does the hair for the show, for all the characters, and sometimes they're wigs and sometimes they're not. And it's like they really pay attention to the detail and what they're trying to have that character portray for that period. And so I did just today finished the final show. And I know there's so much controversy when there comes to a big show. I loved how they wrapped it up. I'm not going to spoil it. I know I've heard it's mid, I've heard it's terrible, I've heard it's this, I've heard it's that. For me, I love it. And in maybe a couple months when everybody has kind of watched it, and maybe you'll watch it too, we can talk about that final wrap up of such a sort of that show's been around for a while now. I didn't even realize it. And we kind of watch these kids grow up and
Yeah,
yeah, it's just so I that was what I watched. So what about you?
I
What are
think,
you watching?
yeah, well, about that, I think uh, Millie Bobby Brown was saying she was 10 or 11 when she started, and now she's
Yeah.
like 20. And so,
And
yeah, it's
married and has
crazy.
a kid. Yeah,
Yes,
it's
yes.
crazy. Yeah.
So I've been watching it, but we haven't watched this current season because I like to binge. So now that they're all out, I will try to talk the boys into watching it with me this weekend. And just, yeah, I'm excited to get through the last season and see what all the hype's about, what everyone is what's so controversial.
I'm sorry.
So one of the things that I watched recently is the Lilith Fair documentary. Have you seen this?
No, but that does not surprise
It's
me. I know you love Lilith Fair, so
Yes, it was so good. Like I forgot how much I love all those artists, all those songs, like so many people like that I just haven't even really thought about since the 90s when this was
yeah.
going on, right? I mean, and they had so Sarah McLachlan put together this, music festival back in the 90s to kind of compete with Lollapalooza and some of the other things going on. And no one thought it would be a success, and no one wants to pay to see women sing and blah blah blah. And it was so good. And um like Nelly Furtado, young Christina Aguilera, I mean, like these like artists that we had no idea who they were, but they were sort of like had their moment there. So anybody who loved that music from the 90s, I highly recommend it. It's just a fun little nostalgic moment in time to reconnect with some of those songs that I haven't heard of or thought about in a very long time. So that was fun.
I'm gonna have to watch it. I know one of my core memories of you literally is driving in your T-top, listening to Edie Brickell over and
Yes,
over.
yes,
And it's like
yes,
that is when I hear those songs, that's like takes me back to those days cruising over to Santa
yes,
Cruz and like all of our adventures. One day we'll share some of that stuff. Yeah, it's so
yes, so
so
much
I
fun.
definitely I feel like this is going to be the same thing. It's going to be very nostalgic. I'm going to watch it. I'll definitely add that to the list.
Yeah, I know. It's good. It's worth it.
So let's pivot. So one of our core themes of our show is going to be what we're learning because you should be an ever learner. Um, what are you learning?
Okay, so one of the things that I'm really obsessed with, and I kind of go through this obsession every year and it dies off, but I really want to hold on to it this year because I really, really need it, is face yoga. And if you haven't done this, and you and I have talked about this a little bit, but I mean, it's really just training different muscles in your face. And I haven't been doing it, so my muscles are not trained. But basically, like every little muscle in your face, you can isolate and like work out, and then it holds tight. Like it's crazy. And one of the ways you can like, okay, so this is an exercise. You kind of like hold your eyebrows and then like raise your forehead, like kind of move those muscles. And at first, when you start doing it, everything moves. But then after you practice, like only your forehead muscle moves and not like your whole eye muscles. Like you can isolate those and like move them independently, which okay, that's kind of a crazy thing. But when you do that, like the wrinkles kind of go away. It like strengthens that skin, but that's like all over your whole face. You can do all these things. So I need to learn more. And I have done a couple different programs. There's one that I have right now that I have been like kind of focusing on, and I don't even remember the name of it. I'll find it. But it's, you know, I need like I want to find a practitioner. So if anybody is like a a yogi, a face yogi, contact me because I feel like I need somebody to sit on a Zoom with me for like an hour every day for a month and just be like, okay, now do this, now do this, now do this. And then I'll finally, get it. But yeah, so that's what I'm trying to learn. What about you? Are you doing any learning these days?
Well, just to go on face yoga for 1 second, it's definitely something. So my esthetician was talking about it, and she didn't have somebody she recommended either, but she talked about how important it is. Like, you got to do this muscle tightening over time. As we get older, everything sinks, and you got to like keep those muscles strong. So yeah, we definitely need to find something good for our listeners. What am I?
Yeah, let's bring somebody on.
Yeah, for sure. Because again, yeah, we all are trying to do the everlasting challenge of, age prevention, especially on our faces.
Yes,
So,
gravity
um,
avoidance.
yeah, and you're not the only person. I know we've talked about yoga a long time, and like we've talked about those frownies that you can sleep with and things like that. Yeah, we just we need to all
Do it.
bind together and figure out what the
That'll
solutions
be the
are.
next challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, all right. So, what am I learning? So, like I mentioned, I do cybersecurity, and obviously, everything is tied to AI lately. That is the buzzword of the year, and will be for the foreseeable future. So, I'm actually doing the data science. I'm doing some data science learning in a book club for how to use AI in a productive and positive way, for like for technologists, for engineers, or for companies that do technology. And so we'll see. I am supposed to get the book any day. I ordered it 40% off for Christmas, and we're going to do it as a group. So I work with some amazing people, and I'm excited to learn from them and learn from the book, and see. And if I learn anything fun or the book is worthwhile, I'll definitely share it to our listeners. Don't know yet, so we'll just leave it like that.
All right. Okay, well, as we get ready to wrap up, is there anything that you're changing or letting go that you want to share with our listeners?
Yes. So I am not doing New Year's resolutions this year, but I am giving up things that do not spark joy or bring joy. I'm giving up the guilt of not doing everything that I think people want me to do. So I'm going to try to YOLO, but YOLO for myself. And I know that sounds a little egoist, but I am a people pleaser inherently, and I do a lot of things, and I'll overtax myself to try to be there for everybody. But at the end of the day, I need to make sure that I'm there for myself. And even though I'm an empty nester almost and a single lady, I still don't focus enough on that. And so that is kind of the change and the letting go, I guess, that I'm going to be really focusing on this year. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think pretty much the same. Like, I really am, and I think I've been doing this for a couple years now, and still feeling a little bit of that guilt about it. But I think I'm, come to terms with the fact that um, I should not let FOMO make me do things I don't want to do. Like, I've got like lots of different friends groups and lots of different, yeah, lots of different groups, and they're always doing something, and I want to do all of them, and I just can't. And sometimes there's stuff that I don't actually want to do, but I feel like, but I haven't seen them in a while. I should do it. It's, and I'm just gonna not. I'm gonna be okay with missing some things. Like I don't have to do everything. If they're all getting together for dinner and I just don't feel like it, that's okay. I'll catch them the next time. Um, and yeah, so I'm also going to try to just like do the things that I want to do
Yeah.
and let go of the things that I don't, that are going to be annoying, that are going to be a waste of money, a waste of time, people I don't really want to hang out with, or whatever the thing is. So yeah, that's my plan too. I think
Good,
it's good.
good.
All right. I know we could keep talking for hours, but we got to save something for the next time. So, friends out there, do something for yourself today. Let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about in a future episode.
And to catch up on past episodes or contact us directly, you can visit midlifegroupchat.com.
Keep learning, keep growing, stay curious, and we'll see you soon. X's and O's, lots of
What's
love.
up?